Getting ready for work? Don't worry, we got you covered.
This is Richmond's Morning News with Rich Herrera on News Radio WRVA.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is 8:33. This is Richmond's Morning News on News Radio WRVA. I'm Rich Herrera. Now, I've been waiting all morning to have this conversation. We are lucky enough on Thursdays to sit down and have two segments with Governor Jim Gilmore. And boy, sir, we have a lot to talk about both here in the Commonwealth and internationally. So let's start with the Commonwealth. Sir, I don't think we've ever seen this before, but we have a looming government shutdown at Capitol Square. Your thoughts?
Well, we've never seen it before. I had a similar experience when I was governor, but because of the car tax, the state Senate didn't want to proceed on with the elimination of the car tax, and I insisted that we at least move it to a 70% cutout. So as a result, we ended up with a controversy, and the state Senate just adjourned, to my surprise. And I guess they wanted to try to teach me a lesson, but that I had of the previous government a budget that I could still work under. So I just adjusted things accordingly and just kept on moving forward. Now, Governor Spanberger, I think, doesn't have that option. She has to have a fresh budget now, or it shuts down the government of Virginia. So I think they'll probably get somewhere, but they haven't yet, apparently.
Okay. I can't figure this out. We have a budget. Glenn Youngkin left a surplus. Now it looks like they want to come up with another $1.5 billion. And one side said, oh, we found it over in tax revenues and we're ahead of where we are. And it just seems like a lot of math, and a lot of people with sharpened pencils found an extra $1.5 billion. And on the Senate side, Louise Lucas wants to. First, she wanted to take away the data centers tax incentives on sales when they replace equipment within. Now she goes, well, we're going to have a usage fee on their generators, which just, to me, sir, just seems like if I can't tax you this way, I'm going to tax you another way.
Well, that's right. And, the issue here, of course, is are we going to be a home for data centers in Virginia, which is the next wave of technology, or not? And it really goes to the point of whether or not, well, really for any business, if Virginia decides to lure that investment in and that capital in and those jobs in, and then doesn't live up to what it sort of told the businesses in the first place, then people will stop trusting Virginia, will stop coming. And that's the issue that I think is of great concern. That I think Governor Spanberger is very, very worried about that. Louise Lucas, I believe, is determined to raise the money, if you will, from the data centers. So it is true if you have billions of dollars of investment, and then the government basically says, well, okay, we'll allow you your tax credit, but we're going to just take it away in another way. That just does the same thing. So I think that's a real problem for Virginia right now that the governor has to get around. As for the re-estimation of revenue, from sometimes the administrations will estimate a lowball as to what is expected, so that they can make sure that they meet all their bills and come out with a surplus at the end, and then go on TV and say, "Wow, we're so efficient. We have a surplus." Well, they underestimated the revenue to begin with, and now what is going on is, because I think Governor Spanberger is desperate to get this resolved with this budget, so that the government of Virginia does not shut down. They've basically taken a more realistic look as to what the revenues will be, and now she's admitted that there will be additional money that's coming in, and she hopes that money will then be a Band-Aid on this problem. I think so far it has not been.
So, and that's the part where I kind of get my nose bent out of shape, sir, when you have that, and then you go, oh, well, we collected too much, but now I can stand here and tell you that, oh, look how great I am. I have a surplus. Well, wait a minute, you took the people's money. And if you knew that you were going to have a surplus over here, then now you're just kind of playing games with us.
Yeah, the budget people are making their best guess, and I'm not saying they're being dishonest. I'm just saying that it's a question of, are you estimating conservatively or not? And in this case, I think that they felt like that they could make that kind of revenue projection. But this is a really serious problem, that you've got a conflict going on. It's all, by the way, within the Democratic Party.
Right.
There are no Republicans in charge of anything in Virginia right now.
Okay, I want to get to I want to get to that in just a second, but let's go forward. Let's say that Louise Lucas stands her ground, Don Scott stands his ground, the governor stands her ground. What happens if we do have a budget that runs out and we're looking July 1st, no budget? What happens to the state?
Well, I don't think we've ever seen that before. So I guess we don't know. We'll have to ask Governor Spanberger what's going to happen and what is going to be done. But the way it's been projected to me is that at that point there is no budget. You can't pay salaries. You can't pay the operating expenses of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We've never seen this before. So I think that the money committees have got to recognize that what they want is not necessarily what they can get. You know, Rolling Stone said you can't always get what you want. At some point, I think that the parties here have to say, look, we're going to have to make a little sacrifice here as to what we want. And I may be in charge of this committee or that government, but at the end of the day, there's going to have to be a bend so that a budget can, in fact, be passed.
Well, I'm just thinking about, all the state services, Virginia State Police, everything else going on. You also have an election going on right now. If we have a government shutdown, what happens to all of that? It's incredibly fascinating. Let's go to the governor for just a second. I have Louise Lucas. Don Scott says this is absolute civil war. She's, picked this fight. He's standing there trying to go toe to toe with her. Governor is aligned herself with Don Scott. Two things I want to see. Two things I'm asking for. I'm asking for leadership from the governor to step up and not side with one, side with the other, but take control and lead this Commonwealth because she's the one person we all voted for. She's the one person involved in this. There was a statewide elected official. Whether you're voted for or not, she's the only one that everyone in the state got a chance to vote on her. Louise Lucas is having these listening to her. She's not statewide elected official. She represents Portsmouth and her district. The governor is the one that sits in that office. It's her job to lead. The other part is, where are the Republicans in all this? I know they can't make any headway. They can't do anything, but I'd like to see the Republicans in the House and the Senate at least show up and go, listen, this is what you get when you get three branches of government controlled by the Democrats. This is our view of what we would do.
Well, good politics to be sure if you do that. But look, let me say a couple of things. First of all, we're saying that Louise Lucas only represents her district. I think the position she would take is that she represents the Commonwealth also, because the system has tossed her to the chairmanship of a committee, the Finance Committee, which does represent the entire Commonwealth. And the truth is that we divide power in Virginia just like we do at the federal level. And the governor, just because she was elected by all the people, doesn't have the constitutional authority to just override all this. She's got to do the politics within the system. It's a heavy burden on all of them to do what they have to do. Now, to your point is a strong one. This is an opportunity for Republican leadership. This is an opportunity to say, wait a minute, if we were governing, this is what we would do. And that is a way of handling it. Now, I'm embarrassed to say that when I was governor and the judge was in charge of the state Senate finances, we didn't get it done either at that time. We just didn't end up with a shutdown because of the preceding budget. But that doesn't matter. That's old news. What is important is this is an opportunity for the Republicans to step up and say, if we were running the show, this is what we would do. And that gives you a platform for the next election. By the way, this is a federal year, not a state year, but it does give you the opportunity to prepare to run on that basis in the future.
You know what? Here's the funny part, sir. You and I think we align just about all the time. There's times where I might disagree with you or you might disagree with me. But on this one, when you're talking about Louise Lucas and the governor, you give me something to think about. That's why I always tell people, respect everyone's opinions, demand they respect yours, meaning you listen to what other people have to say and then ask them to listen to what you have to say. I'm gonna concede that point to you that I hadn't thought of it that way, that if the Senate has felt like they wanted Louise Lucas to be the chairman of this committee, therefore she has the support of the majority of the Senate that's been elected throughout the Commonwealth, then she has elevated herself as a chairman of that committee. So I will see that point to you that she does have a mandate from across the state.
Well, I think she should not be doing what she's doing. Frankly, I think that her duty, though, is higher as a chairman of the Major Finance Committee. Her duty is higher to make a contribution to the elimination of the problems and the running of the Commonwealth. So just because she's got the power to stop things doesn't mean that she should. At some point, there's got to be a compromise made here. And what's been done here is that she has now said, okay, I won't do it this way. I'll do it another way. And then I think that it's up to Governor Spanberger. But more than that, this is a question of what do the Republicans think? And I think that they should be stepping up there and issuing their press releases and saying what they're going to do. And frankly, going around the state in their districts and campaigning on what their solutions should be. So they ought to get into their caucus and offer an alternative, no matter what it is, and run on it. That's an opportunity, it seems to me.
And that's leadership, not just sitting there eating popcorn, watching the two sides slug it out. It's actually giving an alternative of, all right, fine, you put them in office. This is what you get. This mess, here's what we would do if we were in office, and it gives you a good compare and contrast. All right, sir, I can't wait to get your thoughts on this MOU that was signed by Donald Trump. I don't like it. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but I understand how that's part of negotiations. We'll get your thoughts on that coming up at the top of the hour. Governor Jim Gilmore joins us. We have 2 segments with him every Thursday here on News Radio WRVA. All right, today's program is brought to you apart by Loan Pronto. Does it feel like you just can't get ahead? Does it feel like you just can't catch up?